down. Gambling. Great job. Phillip throws it up there where he can get it. Great adjustment as well. Rodgers in the gun gets the snap. Throws deep downfield. And somehow Davante Adams gets behind the defense. 10-5 touchdown Green Bay.
Packers, Colts, one of the great matchups we're eyeing this week. Coming up tomorrow, it is the rest of Week 11, and this is Good Morning Football Weekend presented by Allstate. My name's Colleen, here with D-Hall, Mike, Rob, Jeezy. We've only had one casualty thus far on the show, and that would be the GMFB weekend mug that was smashed earlier. So hopefully that's it. We've gotten that out of the way. No more on the way, but we do have 2 more hours of the show coming your way. And let's start with the Saints, because the news coming out yesterday surprised some. Ian Rappaport here with the tweet. The Saints are expected to start Taysom Hill at quarterback, not Jameis Winston. They're paying Hill $21 million over 2 years, so maybe this shouldn't be a surprise. Who knows? We mentioned that a little earlier, Mike, Rob. Maybe James Palmer knows more about this. He's covering this game for us.
Multiple players in New Orleans said this week that because they went through a stretch of games without Drew Brees with success a year ago, that better prepares them to go through this stretch, however long, without Brees this season. Teddy Bridgewater went 5-0 a year ago. Now, the transition appeared to be a little bit easier because he's very much the same style of quarterback as Drew Brees. They actually rank 1-2 in the NFL in completion percentage this season. Taysom Hill has a different skill set, as does Jameis Winston. And Sean Payton has said emphatically this week they'd set up every player to accentuate their particular skill set. But what they do have as an advantage in this transition is Brees is around. He was going through multiple scans a season ago and wasn't there when Bridgewater was starting to take over. He's been at practice this week, and Payton said it's like having another coach there. Teron Armstead also said he's going to tell everyone on the offensive side of the ball what he sees. He sees everything, and that's an advantage for a replacement quarterback to have. A guy that's been in this system so long, he knows it just as well as Sean Payton.
1,000%, James. Thank you. So good news, New Orleans. Hey, you have the 3rd easiest remaining schedule in the league. Meanwhile, Tampa, one of the toughest, with games against the Rams, Chiefs, and red-hot Vikings in the next month. Of course, the Saints do have to play the Chiefs as well. And we should mention here that the Saints, nothing official from them yet about Taysom Hill. They've named the starter, but they haven't exactly announced it yet specifically. But this is something that could really shake up, obviously, the division and the NFC. With Drew Brees going on IR, he's going to miss at least 3 weeks. So, Mike, Rob, knowing what you know right now and all of the dynamics within that division, who is your favorite to win?
Yeah, this is a tough question because, again, when you don't have Drew Brees in the mix, it's tough to pick the Saints. But for real, even with Drew Brees in the mix, and I know they beat Tampa twice, I still had Tampa Bay winning this division this year, and simply because, to me, I think Tampa needs to understand what their offensive line can do and what their identity can be, and I think running the football is what their identity can be. You saw what Ronald Jones did last week, 23 carries for 192 rush yards. I mean, that's what this offensive line seems to know how to do it. It seems every time they get into these battles where they have to drop back a whole bunch of times and get, that right tackle, Tristan Wirfs, one-on-one with pass rushers, they have some issues blocking up front. So, again, I think they need to calm everybody down, run the football so that you can get one-on-one on the outside with those animals of receivers that you have, and then you can go eat in the play-action pass game. To me, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're still the front runners in the NFC South.
Hey, I hear you, Rob, and, I actually picked Tampa early in the season to run away with this, well, not run away with this division, but be the division champs. And after watching the Saints, it's hard for me to not pick the Saints. Now, a question mark's kind of on what will the Saints look like? How will this offense work? Is it just a ploy by Sean Payton and Jameis Winston is going to get in the ball game and alternate reps? We don't know what this Saints offense is going to look like. With that being said, I've played in this New Orleans-Atlanta Falcons game. This is an intense rivalry. It might not be Chicago-Green Bay or Washington-Dallas, but I tell you what, those fan bases love this matchup, and both teams come to play, throw the records out the door. And so this is going to tell us a lot about the Saints and how they can, win this division, because they play the Falcons twice in the next 3 weeks. We originally thought Drew Brees was going to miss 2 weeks, come back for that last Falcons game. But now with him being on IR, he's going to miss both of these Falcon games. And so if they lose this first one against the Falcons, who is a capable team to beat those guys because they know that opponent, I think you might be right. It might be the Bucs' time. But for right now, I'm going to stick with the Saints.
I'll ride with you, D-Ho, on this one, in large part because, and I talked about them last week, the Saints defense. And I mentioned this on air last year, that there were conversations amongst the Saints defensive players and staff and saying, hey, the year before and the year before that, sometimes our offense had sputtered late in the season. So let's beat the strength of this team down the stretch. Now, last year, the offense really didn't sputter. I mean, that offense continued to hum down the stretch. But now you're looking at a situation where, yeah, it might be affected because Brees is coming out for at least 3 games. So you know you're going to have to rely on your backup quarterback. And then when he comes back, who knows if the rhythm is going to be disrupted. So this really might have to lean, this team might have to lean more on their defense this year. And I think they're capable, because I'm seeing the 4th-ranked defense right now and a unit that is really coming together under coordinator Dennis Allen. So I still think that could be the strength of this team that could carry them at least through the next couple of weeks.
I'm really torn on this one, because if Drew Brees wasn't hurt, I would absolutely go the Saints here. But that, for me, is the tiebreaker right now, because we're talking about a team with Tom Brady versus a team right now that has some combination of Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. So when I'm going to go with the known commodity there. Plus, you have a defense in Tampa Bay that's been forcing turnovers all year long. They still have a bye on their schedule. And if you look at their last 3 games, if we're talking about ending the season strong, the Bucs have the Falcons twice and then the Lions in between, and the Saints' final 3, Chiefs, Vikings, Panthers. So that could be a little bit more difficult for them. We'll really just have to see, though, how this game plays out tomorrow with the quarterback situation in New Orleans. Then we'll have a little bit better of an idea of how this is going to go for the NFC South down the stretch here. But let's stick with this game and do a little names and numbers with it, because it's an interesting one here. So, D-Hall, I'm going to start with you. And which of these big names will have more receiving yards tomorrow, Julio Jones or Michael Thomas?
Well, shoot, that's going to be an easy one, man. I'm going with Julio Jones, right? Matt Ryan's throwing the ball. I don't think Jameis Winston is going to get that big of an opportunity to be a part of this offense. You've heard Taysom Hill's going to be the guy. Taysom Hill ain't thrown but 18 passes, and not a lot from the actual quarterback position. So I'm going with the proven commodity. Let's go Julio, baby.
Okay, going with Julio there. Mike, Rob, how about this one? More touchdowns. You're going to go with Zeke or Dalvin Cook in that matchup?
Oh, this was not a tough question. I told Cody, give me something a little tougher than this. This is Dalvin Cook. He's playing the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys defense can't stop a nosebleed, right? And Ezekiel Elliott hadn't stepped up all year. Doesn't have a 100-yard game all season. I thought that they would be able to lean on Ezekiel Elliott, and they haven't been able to do that. You look at Dalvin Cook, his ascent continues. This kid is in the discussion for the MVP. I like Dalvin Cook.
All right, you're going with Dalvin Cook. I know you're super high on the Vikings right now. GZ, how about this one? Which James will have more rushing yards tomorrow, Connor or Robinson? Robinson's
Cody thinks this is a tough question. I don't quite know what he's looking at here.
I know.
He's expecting the Steelers' run defense to be stout, but they've given up like 265, 140, 130. Now, 265 was Baltimore. That's a different deal. But they're not quite as stout as they were early in the year, while James Robinson is averaging over 100 yards per game the last 3 weeks, and James Conner hasn't rushed for 100 yards since October 18th. Give me James Robinson. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here. Colleen, in the rematch of Super Bowl 53 quarterbacks, who's going to throw for more yards, Jared Goff or Tom Brady?
Okay, so both quarterbacks are essentially tied in passing yards per game right now. They're both going to have to pass a lot because it's going to be tough to establish the run against these two defenses. And they're both facing top 10 pass defenses in this game. So nobody has a clear statistical advantage here. So I'm just going to go with Tom Brady because he has more ways to cut it up and get at you, and Jalen Ramsey can only be on one guy at one time, so he's not going to be able to clone himself and be all over the field. So give me Tom Brady in this one. But who knows? Honestly, it's really evenly matched. So kind of a push. We'll see. Speaking of quarterbacks,